So I don't know if you guys remember, like 15 years ago or so, 10, 15, 15 years ago probably now, Oprah did this series where she was helping people get out of debt. And they called us and they were going to have us on the show. And I can't remember why they didn't have us on the show. There was some technical problem. But anyway, I ended up sending my cookbooks to the Oprah show to give to the people that they were helping. And one of the ladies, and I said, listen, contact me and I'll help you. One of the ladies.
Well, let me say this before you get further in the story. Tara called me and she said, listen to these people. And this one gal, I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know if there's any help for her. I mean, it was pretty bad.
She was bad.
It was really bad. One of the worst
She
cases.
was probably 1,000 times worse than the lady Mom was talking about shopping at North.
Yeah,
Nordstrom's.
I couldn't believe this. I mean, this woman, I didn't know if you were going to tell this part,
Go ahead.
but she didn't even have dishes in her kitchen because she refused to cook. They went out to eat for everything.
Every single meal.
Snacks, everything.
They
went out to eat. She had nothing basically in her kitchen, but go ahead.
Honestly, I thought these people were hopeless, like Mom said. And so I said, go ahead and eat. I told the producer, tell them to email me if they have any questions on saving on their groceries or whatever. And it was like a year and a half later.
Well, they brought in the best.
Yeah, they brought in the experts.
Best experts there were in the country on.
I'm not going to mention who they were.
On financial experts.
I'm not going to mention who they were. But this lady emailed me a couple of times and I was talking to her back and forth. I think I actually talked to her on the phone too. I gave her my phone number.
And this was the one I thought was the worst of all.
Like a year and a half later, she said, Tara, we have all of our debt paid off. Those idiots on the show did not help us at all. But your tips are the ones that we actually used and we are debt free now. In 18 months. I mean, they had some ridiculous amount of debt, like $200,000 worth of debt.
Charts.
And they were making like $500,000 and they couldn't pay. They were living paycheck to paycheck. They couldn't pay their bills. It was ridiculous. And she said, your tips actually helped us pay off debt. She said, I'm cooking at home. She said, I didn't know cooking could be so simple. See, that's the problem. This is probably our next tip. Stop making cooking so complicated. Maple glazed chicken, honey baked chicken, 4 ingredients, and you have a delicious dinner that takes you 5 minutes to prep. 5 minutes. Potato soup. Really? It's like what? 4 degrees here today. Yummy potato soup. It takes literally 5 minutes to peel the potatoes, chop them up, put them in and boil them with some broth and cheese and a couple of spices. Stop buying hundreds of spices.
Be sure with the hotsy totsy, being smeared, and smear the pepper sauce and
We use about 5 spices for pretty much all of our meals. We use garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, and then we'll use for baking like cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves. So we maybe use 10 spices. I don't even use Italian seasoning hardly. I have a bottle of Italian seasoning, but I use it like twice a year because those 5 things, and the paprika, I do use paprika a little bit more.
I don't even
but
paprika.
Those 5 things will basically season everything. Do you know why food doesn't taste good? You're not using enough salt. That is why food does not taste good. That's why you're having
to add more spices,
you don't
more
need
sauces.
Rosemary. You don't need thyme. You don't need all that fancy schmancy stuff. You just need enough salt for it to actually taste good.
Mm-hmm.
That's why in all my old cooking videos, you'll see, I keep saying, the world needs more salt, people. Why? Because they've gotten on this trip of no one can eat any salt. I knew 5 people in 2019 that were hospitalized with low sodium.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they weren't eating enough salt and they needed salt.
And because people have hollered about it so much,
now people are paranoid.
The factories of the companies that make this food, in order to get you to buy it, they've taken the salt out of their food, and fat and things like that to get you to buy it. So you're getting even less, salt because you're not having it even in the food that you're buying, where they put a little bit in there at least and things. And so that's why, but this gal, one thing I wanted to say about this gal, she's kind of mentioned to us was that these financial guys put her on a budget. You know, that's the first thing everybody wants is a budget. You know,
A
how to
budget
get
is ridiculous.
And she said, I couldn't even register it. I couldn't even think about it. It wasn't these ideas that a lot of times you get from the major financial people. They don't work for not a common, I don't want to even use, but they just don't work. Maybe I'll just say that. You have
Well,
to, in
all these
everyday
financial
life.
people, they're there to make money off of you.
Yeah.
They're selling you all these IRAs and all this other stuff. So they're financial experts, but they don't know how to spend money
Yeah.
or not spend money.
And a lot of them don't even have middle class income, you know. So they just really, and she said they did, and they even sent in tons of crock pots and electric frying pans, and
Yeah, it's crazy.
mounds and
Crazy.
mounds of small appliances and
Food processors and
all this stuff. She said, I didn't know what to do with. She didn't want to drag out. No wonder she didn't want to cook to drag out all these things. You know, our stuff is so simple. You just need pans. All what you need is like 2 or 3 pans, and you can
Yeah.
cook most of our food. You know, on the stovetop anyway.
Yeah.
And so she said, I was just overwhelmed. They get you too overwhelmed. Our stuff is so simple, so easy. It's
Mhm.
like, it would be like taking a kindergartner into high school and say, now you've got to go to school, is what the financial people do. Can you imagine a
Go to
kindergarten
college, you mean?
or college?
Yeah.
Well, high school, a kindergarten and high school couldn't
Yeah.
handle it. And so they would be immediately overwhelmed. We do the opposite. We take and make things as simple as what kindergartners can understand, and high schoolers can actually understand it too, you know. So we just try to make it very, very simple
Yeah.
and easy.